Hello everyone, this is David Cerns from Haley Marketing Group, and welcome to today's Lunch with Haley webinar. I'm really thrilled to be here today presenting to you on content marketing, the art of selling without selling. Of all the Lunch with Haleys we've done over the last 4 years now, I would have to say this is probably my single favorite topic. I am a huge fan of content marketing, and I actually kind of get a kick out of the fact that the term content marketing is now in vogue. You're going to see some slides later on from a place called the Content Marketing Institute. There's all kinds of marketers who are talking about being content marketers, but I'm going to let you in a little secret. Content marketing is not something new. At Haley Marketing Group, we've been doing it for more than 16 years, and we didn't invent content marketing. We just applied lessons that we've learned from great salespeople, from great marketers throughout history, to how we market and how we bring marketing to the staffing industry. So today, what are we going to talk about? Well, we've got a lot of ground to cover in the next hour. So here's a quick overview of the agenda. You're going to hear me on one of my many soapboxes talking about one of the things that I am not a fan of. You're going to learn how Haley Marketing Group went 16 years without making a cold call and some of the results we were able to produce with a very limited marketing budget. You're going to see a few case studies of real-life examples of how content marketing has worked over the years in the staffing industry. And then I'm going to walk you through the essentials of how you'd create a content marketing program for your own business, how you create your master plan, the essential tools you need. There's a lot more you can use than what you absolutely need, but I'll go through what you need. And then we'll kind of wrap it up talking about a few of the more advanced topics in content marketing. Now, given that we only have an hour, we're certainly not going to cover everything about content marketing. But if there are questions along the way, please feel free to use that question box and ask them, and I'll do my best to answer questions as we go. All right, with that said, let's kick things off. And as I told you, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of cold calling. And if you've heard me on Lunch with webinars before, you've probably heard me talk about how I'm not a huge fan of cold calling. The issue is not that there's a problem with cold calling. Cold calling works. Cold calling is how the staffing industry has sold its services for 50 years. What I'm not a fan of is wasting time, and what I don't like about cold calling is that it's inefficient. I've been asking a lot of owners of staffing companies and sales reps over the past couple of years, what percentage of time that you make a cold call do you get a successful outcome where you get the person you're calling on the phone and it leads to the next conversation? And the answer usually is less than 5%. So in other words, 19 out of 20 times you pick up that phone just making a cold call, you're not going to get the result you were hoping to achieve. I don't like things that are inefficient. And then when you do get somebody on the phone and you tell them that you're calling from a staffing firm, you have not set the right tone for a consultative sale. They are immediately pigeonholing you as being in the staffing industry, thinking they know what you do, and having preconceived notions about the services you sell. And worst of all, if you ask clients what they hate most about the staffing industry, the answer you know is we hate the cold calls, we hate the aggressive sales tactics. So we're in a business that's built on relationships, and our first attempt to build a relationship is to do something our customers hate. Now, that's why I'm not a fan of cold calling, but do not misunderstand what I just said. That doesn't mean I think you shouldn't pick up the phone. In fact, I think the phone is one of those essential tools that should be tightly integrated with your marketing. And I'm going to show you in a little bit how you integrate your sales efforts with your marketing to improve the efficiency, to make the calls more effective, and to be more consultative. Now, as I mentioned, at Haley Marketing Group, we have managed to go 16 years without making a cold call. We've been implementing content marketing since the day we started. And it was a little scary in the beginning because we had no customers, and we were launching a business, and we weren't going to pick up the phone and call anyone because we figured we had to win business based on the quality of our marketing. It's what we do for a living. So it took a while, and in the beginning, the only tool we really had, this was back in 1996, the only tool we really had was the direct mail, U.S. snail mail, and so we mailed out letters and articles to owners of staffing firms. And nothing happened in the very beginning, but over time, we started to get more and more calls from interested prospects. I still remember people saying, what happened to the green envelopes? Because in the beginning, to make our mail stand out, we mailed everything in very distinctive green envelopes. Over the years, those envelopes evolved into emails, and email marketing became the best way to communicate with the staffing industry, the best way to do content marketing. And today, we've evolved to doing webinars, Lunch with Haley, regular emails. We have different types of emails we do multiple times a month, blog writing, social media marketing, and trade show and event marketing. And with a very small marketing budget, our little company is able to generate more than 500 inbound inquiries a year. Now, you're saying, yeah, but David, you work in marketing for the staffing industry. We're in staffing. It's different. It's more competitive. So do these lessons apply to staffing firms? I'm going to show you some specific examples in a minute, but let me talk about the problem with cold calling in staffing is that issue of people wanting to automatically put us on a shelf. They think they know what you do as soon as they recognize that you're from a staffing firm. They want to categorize you. And as soon as you get placed on that shelf with every other staffing firm, they think you're a commodity, and it's going to be about markups and prices. They also think they already know what you do. So if you say you're different, they may or may not believe you. Very likely they won't because they've heard it before. So before you pick up the phone, before you make that cold call, what we want to do is we want to change the playing field around so that you're raising awareness about the issues that drive the need for your services. And you're able to, instead of cold calling, having many more warm calls that lead to positive outcomes. Now, I've had a couple people just contact me saying they're having problems with the sound cutting in and out. I'll do my best to try to minimize that. Unfortunately, with the GoToWebinar service, not a lot of control. So if you miss something, just message me through the questions and I'll repeat it. All right, so the question is, does this process of content marketing, of educating people, work in the staffing industry? In one word, yeah, it definitely does. And to give you some specific examples, back in the late 1990s, we wrote a book called the Staffing User's Manual that our clients would send out to their clients. And it was a way to teach people more about how, when, and why to use staffing services. I remember the corporate headquarters for Paychex in Rochester, New York was on a prospect list for one of our clients. The director of marketing called our client to ask for 100 additional copies of that book so that they could hand it out to every manager in the organization to teach them how to buy staffing. Paychex HR department wanted to teach their own managers how to buy staffing better. And that was 14 years ago, roughly, that was produced. So does it still hold true today? The answer is still yes. There's a company in Atlanta we worked with that was focusing on ways to use staffing to solve problems. They spent about $16,000 developing a direct marketing campaign to teach people how to solve problems with staffing. That investment, when integrated with their sales follow-up, led to $943,000 in new business. Another client out in California that we work with was focusing on how to use staffing more intelligently to drive productivity in your workforce. Their marketing program using content enabled their call-to-appointment ratio to double. They had 100% more appointments. They actually had HR people responding to them saying, we've been looking for information like this to try to justify to purchasing and the CFO that just driving down price of staffing doesn't improve our internal operating costs. We had a campaign that you see on the screen. It's a series of postcards called Why Staffing Now? And this was done in 2009, right at the bottom of the crash in the staffing industry, where we're trying to help clients teach people that even when you're laying off, even when your business is in a terrible situation, there's still lots of times when you want to use temporary staffing, when you want to use direct hire services. And this campaign introduced people to all of those different times to use staffing through a 13-week content marketing process where the salespeople would follow up to get appointments and get job orders. And it was a conversation starter that immediately put to rest the objection of, we're not hiring. Another thing we're seeing companies do today, blogging. Blogging is all about content marketing. And on average, something as simple as writing one blog post a week will increase traffic to your website on average more than 250%. And even if you do nothing else, if you've got salespeople who just go out and do drop-offs or drop-by calls and they're knocking on doors, instead of handing out your business card or your brochure, try handing out an informative educational article, something that they can then make a follow-up call on in order to have a meaningful conversation. That simple act, whether you're doing a direct mail piece, a drop-off, an email, social media, of sharing something that forms the basis of a conversation, that's what makes content marketing work in staffing. But what exactly is content marketing? Well, as I mentioned, there's a group called the Content Marketing Institute. And according to the Content Marketing Institute, content marketing is a method of marketing involving creating and distributing relevant and valuable content to attract, acquire, and engage a clearly defined and understood target audience with the objective of driving profitable customer interaction. Now, doesn't that sound collegiate? In plain English, content marketing is the art of selling without selling. It's about sharing great ideas, creating sales opportunities by educating people, adding value, constantly nurturing relationships with your prospects, your existing clients, and your candidates. It's really about positioning yourself as somebody who understands the problems your customers are facing and can provide solutions to those problems. All right, so now get your pencils out because we're going on to a pop quiz. You'll see a lot of different items coming up on the screen. A lot of different things you may be doing in your sales and marketing, in your own website, online marketing, offline. My question is, which of the things on this list, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but which of these things are content marketing? Now, you don't have to use the chat to respond back to me. Just think for yourself of all the things on this list, which are content marketing. Now, I showed this to my internal staff, and the reaction was, David, it must be all of the above. You've got so many things there. The answer is not quite. There are things that are content marketing that are on this list that are definite because they're about educating people. If I'm doing a webinar on employment law, if I'm conducting a salary survey, if I'm sharing an article on workforce planning, I am creating content, whether I'm distributing it, I'm gathering it, I'm sharing it. I'm creating content in a way to educate, not directly sell to educate the customer that I want to deal with so that I can then have a conversation in more depth to learn more about their business. You'll see some things on this list that are in blue, and the reason I put them in blue is that there may be content marketing. So if I have an email newsletter, or I'm doing top candidates emails, or sending out postcards, or I do an iPad presentation about our company, or we're writing a blog, those things could be content marketing, as long as they're not just self-promotional. When your newsletter is all about you, or your blog is only about news at your company, it's not really content marketing, that's just promotion. When your newsletter is about trends and issues in human resources, or how to hire more intelligently, or staffing best practices, that's content marketing. Now, top candidates, if you're sending out that kind of an email, generally speaking, that's promotional, not really content marketing. But if you're working with your clients and you're providing it as a benefit to say, hey, we've got great people that become available from time to time, and we'd like to give you first access to them. So we're going to share our database with you before we share it with everybody else. Now you've taken that direct promotion of candidates and you've turned it into a form of content marketing. You're sharing your content, your database, with your clients as a benefit because they get first access to your candidates. Some of the things on the list that are probably not content marketing, things that are sales pieces. A brochure. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have one. It's just technically not content marketing. A press release that's about new services you offer or hires you made, not content marketing. If you shoot a video about your company's mission, not content marketing, but it still might be good in the sales process to help people understand what your company's vision is and why you can provide a better value than somebody else. It's just probably not going to attract people to your company. However, if you did a video on how to interview or reference checking best practices, that would be content marketing. So to help make sense of all of this, content marketing is about education. It's about teaching people stuff. It's about having information that is non-threatening, highly valuable, and in the process of educating, you're showing people when, why, and how to use your services. It's a method for creating new sales opportunities while you're positioning your company as an expert and a trusted advisor. Content marketing turns off the pressure to, I have to sell all the time. Because that pressure that you feel in sales to constantly get the job order actually creates sales resistance. Content marketing is more of a pressure of, I'm on a mission to teach you how to do something great. I'm going to show you how to use staffing better than you've ever used it before. I'm going to show you how to hire more intelligently than you've ever done it before. And in the process of my showing you how to do things really well, I'm going to convince you that I'm exceptionally good at staffing and recruiting. And you're going to want to work with me because you're going to realize the process is hard to do on your own and you need a partner. The other thing about content marketing is that it's a marketing discipline that combines lots of other parts of marketing. It combines traditional medium like print, direct mail, and PR, inbound marketing techniques like blogging, SEO, and social media, and thought leadership activities like writing and speaking. Content marketing encompasses all of this stuff. It's not one-dimensional. And one of the most important things about content marketing is that it is not passive. I've seen a lot of hype about the term inbound marketing. I've seen it outside the staffing industry. I've seen it inside the staffing industry. We've talked about inbound marketing. I love inbound marketing. I love when you can bring clients and candidates to you. But if you're in the staffing business and you're only relying on inbound marketing, you are not going to have a lot of sales. The reality of the staffing industry, with very few exceptions, there are some that rely on inbound marketing and succeed, is that you need to integrate sales and marketing together. Your content marketing should be tightly integrated with direct sales to systematically target the businesses you want to do business with. You want to be doing outreach to drive people to your content. You're using your content to create opportunities for sales calls and ensure that you're doing consistent relationship nurturing with every prospect and every client at least once a month. As I said, I'm not a big fan of cold calls, but I'm a huge fan of integrating sales calls with your content marketing. All right, so how do you get started with content marketing? Well, we're going to go through a process, and while I'm switching to the next slide, a couple people have already asked, will this webinar be recorded, and are the slides available? There's already a public question I answered that has a link to the slides. That same link is where we will put the audio up next week, and the email you received from GoToWebinar, if you scroll down in that email, there's a link to the slides, the same web page where we have the slides for you, and we'll have the recorded presentation available next week. All right, so now let's talk about getting started with content marketing. Step one, create some great content. Now, content can come in a lot of different formats. It could be a video, a webinar, an ebook, a white paper, or even something as simple as a blog post on local compensation trends or the secrets to sourcing top talent. Usually the challenge with creating that great content is, what do I write about? What should my content focus on? And I'm going to talk more about how to do that later, and particularly in the advanced topics at the end. But the one key you need to remember about great content is it's not about your company, and most likely it's not even about staffing. Your content is about the needs, the interests, the challenges, and or the goals of the people you'd like to reach. So you see a couple of examples that are on this screen. What is strategic staffing? That's an iPad presentation a company had to teach clients how to staff more strategically. That same company had a booklet that was in print and electronic format that was a workforce strategies guide. That's what they had instead of a traditional brochure. There's a sample of a picture of one of our webinars. This is an example of content marketing. We're teaching you how to be content marketers because in the process we're showing you what we do. And there's in the bottom right corner, there's one of our clients that put out a booklet on the future of the staffing industry and which path are you going to take, as they were introducing to staffing firms new ways to think about the services they provide so they can do more than just temp help and direct hire. Once you've created something that's great content, then you want to add it to your website. Now, there are lots of ways to distribute content. You can drop it off. You can email it out. As you'll see in a second, I'm fans of every way you can get people to engage with your concept, but in my opinion, you want to add it to your website so that it's always there for people to take advantage of. Content marketing is about getting people to engage with your ideas, and the easiest place for them to do that is on your website, because they can go to your website at their convenience. They can check out your content. There's no sales pressure. Once we get people to the website, then we can look at getting them to take the next step, to want to talk to us, to download more content, to subscribe to a newsletter, to submit a form requesting information on our services, or to apply for a job. The picture you see on the screen is actually a picture off of Haley Marketing's website. It's a piece of our new website called the Idea Lab, where we have made all kinds of content like our Lunch with Haley webinars available for free. The only cost to getting them is you got to give us your name and email address so that we can continue to stay in touch with you. And you'll see where it says download the ebook, there's a little lock on there, because until you provide the name and email address, our content is locked. We unlock it when you give us your contact information. And you can do the exact same thing on your website. And in this way, your website turns into a tool for generating sales leads 24/7. Now, part of getting people to respond is to create something like you see on screen now, a landing page, a page people go to in order to get this great piece of content that you've created. A landing page should be just like what you're seeing, simple and clear. All it's doing is selling one message: get our content. It's not trying to sell your services. It's not trying to take people in 5 different directions. A landing page does one thing. It sells the offer you are making on that page, period. The second thing you want your landing page to do is to be really short. So this one doesn't have a response form on it, but if it had a form, you would want as few fields as possible: name, company, email address, maybe phone number. Stop. Don't ask all the qualifying questions to make somebody download your content. Keep it short, keep it simple, and more people will fill in the blanks. Once you collect the information, then you can follow up with those people appropriately, and we'll talk about the sales integration in a minute. You can follow up with those people to turn them into real sales leads. And if you want to get to the page that's shown on screen right now, there's a URL, haleymarketing.com/IdeaLab. You can stop there and you can find this page, or you can see the full Idea Lab URL, ebooks, email-marketing, gets you right to the page where you can get our Marketing Best Practices Guide. All right, so you created some great content. You added it to your website. Now you got to promote it. This is where you get actively involved, and this is where your salespeople will spend a lot of their time with new prospects. Email. Okay, your sales team and maybe your marketing team should be emailing every client and every prospect to tell them about new content that you have. But in addition to the bulk email blast, salespeople should be emailing people one-to-one to invite them to take advantage of your content. Even when we do an Idea Club, our email newsletter, our sales team will personally follow up with their prospects to send out that exact same link saying, hey, just in case you missed our latest newsletter, here's a link to it. I think you really enjoy the content. They add their personal touch to our content marketing. Social messaging. Sometimes the best way to get a hold of people is through LinkedIn messages. So you may want to, when you have a new piece of content, jump into LinkedIn, create a message, and send it out to everybody you're connected to. You can almost guarantee that LinkedIn message is going to get read. Social sharing. That's where you, again, go into LinkedIn, go into Twitter, go into Facebook, and you share your content in places other people will find it. So it could be on a group you manage, on your company Facebook page, could be on other LinkedIn groups where your clients hang out and you share a link to your content. SEO, search engine optimization. You want your landing pages and your content to be optimized for search engines so that Google and Bing and Yahoo, they're going to find your content, and people who are doing searches, because if your content is written about a problem your customer's having, your customer's searching for answers to that problem. While they're doing his searches, the search engines will bring them right back to your website. Likewise, pay-per-click advertising. There's absolutely no reason not to use PPC, again, on Google, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook to promote your great content right to the people who you want to drive to your website. One of the new things that Facebook did that's really cool, you can upload an email list and only show your ads to the people on your email list. Now, if I really want to go after my prospects, I'm emailing them in bulk. My salespeople are following up with key people, and then when they go on Facebook, they're seeing our company again with the same piece of content. We're going to get them to our website by surrounding them. One of the other things I love to do is get other people to share your stuff. You may send your content to the Vice President of Human Resources. Encourage them to share it with other people in the HR department and other department heads. If your local SHRM chapter does a newsletter, give your content to them to put into the newsletter. Find people who are decision influencers and send your content to them. Twitter is a great place to define decision influencers. So you may be finding people who are blogging about staffing in your community or recruiting in a specific industry. Connect with those people on Twitter, and then when you've got a great piece of content, direct message them and invite them to check out your content. They'll share it with their audience. Pick up the phone. The salespeople are going to want to pick up the phone to invite their clients, their prospects, to take advantage of the content. Direct mail. I love direct mail. A lot of people say, isn't direct mail dead? You know, everybody's doing everything online. To me, direct mail is like the express line at the grocery store. Everybody's in the other line, the online marketing line. Very few companies are in the direct mail line. And when you send something out that offers really good information that is valued by your prospects, and they see it on the direct mail piece, and it's a simple URL to go get it, they'll type it in and they'll go to your website. Same thing with email signatures. You can promote your content with every email you send out just by putting the content or a link to the content in your emails. We just found something I didn't even know was a feature in Outlook. Our system administrator could automatically append an addendum to everybody's email signature going out. So we're going to start experimenting with that to say, hey, can we use those attachments, those addendums at the end of our signatures to promote unique content each month? Your own business card could turn into a little mini billboard. Take your great content, put the URL and a plug for the content on the back of your card. And lastly, not only do you want to put the content on a landing page on your website, but then you want to cross-promote the content from other pages on your website by creating banner graphics and links that direct people, hey, while you're at our site, go get our content. I was just looking at Google Analytics this morning for a client of ours in Northern California. They're not really in a major marketplace. They're a relatively small, locally owned staffing company, and they're averaging more than 2,000 visitors a month to their website. If they had some great content to offer, they could be turning those 2,000 visitors into 2,000 people applying for jobs, 2,000 clients looking for help with staffing. All right. And then, of course, you want to repeat and repeat and repeat. Content marketing is not a one-time event. You can get started with a single great piece of content and a consistent marketing effort. We have a guide we wrote in 2008, our Marketing Best Practices Guide. We still use that today, 5 years later. It still generates sales leads for us every single week. The beauty of content marketing is once you make the investment to create something, you can leverage it for a long, long time, but you have to continually invest in creating new content to keep people coming back to your website, back to wanting to interact with you over and over again. So whether you're writing regular blog posts, producing monthly webinars, developing a series of how-to videos, producing white papers, the key is to have a game plan where there's lots of repetition. That's what's going to make you successful over the long term. Now, a question just came in that I want to address. I feel that this is great, but it should be gone with other marketing techniques. Here you're assuming that all clients you want to reach are on the internet. I know a lot of people have reached out and said they don't do social media. I couldn't agree more. And that's why I'm going to go back a slide. If you look at the list of ways to promote the content, we're looking at social media, online marketing, traditional marketing, sales outreach. When it comes to promoting your content, you want to have a game plan that's as aggressive as possible to get as much mileage as you can out of that content asset you've paid to produce. All right, so it's just 4 steps to getting started with content marketing. What are the tools you need to get started? Well, here are the essentials. It's really pretty simple. You need a website. Ideally, you're going to have a blog on that website. You're going to have email, and I'm not talking about bulk email marketing, just email. LinkedIn, the one social media tool that I think is essential, your telephone, and that starting piece of content and a game plan. Now, your website. Your website needs to be a good representation of your firm, and what by that I mean it has to look good, it has to accurately represent your firm the way you want to be seen, and it's got to be easy for you to update as you're going to be tweaking your content pages and adding new content. You want to have a blog. For most companies, a blog becomes ground zero for their content marketing. It's a place that you can go share ideas. It serves as a hub for everybody on the team to add content to your website, and then for your sales team and your recruiters to take content and share it with others through email and social media. And it's the place that people from the outside world are probably going to go first, is to that blog, because they're going to find that blog content that will then take them to other pages on your website. Email. It's still the fastest, easiest, cheapest way to get people to engage with you. And even though email response rates are way down from where they were a few years ago, there still is no higher return on investment way to market to people, no faster way to get a response than email marketing. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the place you go to find your clients and candidates. They're hanging out there. They may not be there every single day, some of them are, but a lot of them are visiting LinkedIn regularly. They're checking out LinkedIn groups. They're getting digest updates from LinkedIn groups. You can direct message them through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an ideal place to spend time, and salespeople should spend 15 to 30 minutes a day sharing content on LinkedIn. Telephone. I still want salespeople picking up the phone. When you have a great piece of content, that's when you get on the phone to tell people about it. You want to follow up with people you know on the phone, and even if you don't know people, having a great piece of content, that really is a great excuse for a cold call. Because now I'm not calling just to talk about staffing. I'm calling to give you something really useful for free. Access to that piece of content. I want salespeople on the phone having meaningful conversations about staffing issues. The way to get them having those conversations is to start talking about the problems and challenges that your clients are interested in, and getting someone engaged with content is the way to do that. And of course, the essential tool is you need that starting piece of content, that one thing that you can build off of. And then a plan, and the reason you need a plan is to think through what are all those promotional activities we're going to do, the piece of content we've created, how does it relate to our customers, and then to sit down with the sales team and show them, here's what we expect you to do to leverage that content to get more appointments. And somebody just sent in, you still need to knock on doors to get all the emails to email them. You bet. You still need to knock on doors. You still need to do your research to dig up people's contact information and make calls. I'm not a huge fan of just the drop-by calling unless you're dropping off something really intriguing that will lead to a conversation in a follow-up. But I am a fan of picking up the phone and calling people to invite them to take a look at your content. And if you don't have an email address, you can use tools like jigsaw.com to get email addresses, or network through LinkedIn. Find those decision makers you want to reach, get connected, and in that very first communication to the individual you want to meet, give them that piece of content. Give them a reason to like you day one. So that great piece of content, what should it be about? What are the topics that work in staffing and recruiting? The thing to remember, as I said earlier, great content starts with the client. It's not about you. You could be talking about staffing problems that people have and solutions that you know exist. how to hire and manage specific types of people. If you do IT talent, where do you hire IT people these days? And more importantly, how do you manage those very difficult to manage professionals? Improving workforce performance in the staffing industry. You are a de facto expert in hiring and managing and motivating people because you deal with so many employers. All you got to do is share your wisdom with your clients and showing them how to improve their workforce performance. Hot button for everybody. How do I reduce cost? Okay, so they come to you and say, well, so-and-so can do it for a lower markup because I'm trying to reduce cost. But lower markup is just one way to reduce staffing cost, and as you know, it's probably the worst way because lower markup is going to translate to lower quality workers, which is going to translate to poorer productivity, which is going to translate to higher labor costs. So you want to show them how to intelligently reduce personnel costs by using more flexible staffing, getting better quality flexible workers, being more of a partner with an organization like yours. You can be teaching them about human resource issues, workforce strategy. Again, it's any topic that really matters and is of interest to your target client. So if you're not sure what to write about, where can you find ideas? Number one, something I love to do, interview your clients. Send your salespeople out and have them ask a simple question. It's 2013. There's a lot of issues going on in the economy. What's of the greatest concern to you in your role at this company? Ask your clients that question. Then consolidate all the answers. Whatever they tell you is their greatest challenge are perfect topics for content marketing. Monitor discussions on LinkedIn and Twitter. See what people in LinkedIn groups are talking about, whether you're looking at the group conversations, you're looking at LinkedIn answers to see what questions people are asking, or you're following clients, you're following industry influencers on Twitter to see what they're writing about. The key is to ensure that you are just listening first to the topics of interest and then developing content based around those topics. Look at trade publications. One of the things that we like to do is we'll call trade publications in our clients' industries and ask them for their editorial calendars. The magazines will tell us what they're going to write about. So if we know the topics the industry publications are going to write about, we know what to write about. Also, we'll look at conferences that our clients are going to attend, and we'll see what speakers are on the agenda. The topics those speakers are talking about are great subjects for content marketing. And lastly, if you don't already have an RSS reader and subscribe to RSS feeds of relevant publications in your industry, get one. Follow issues in manufacturing, logistics, call centers, whatever industry you serve. Follow the publications and the people who are sharing their content. You can grab their RSS feeds of their information from their blogs or from their websites, pull it right into an RSS reader, and then every day you can check up on the things people are talking about. All right, before we move on, I had a couple issues. Somebody said they tried to type in the email marketing freebie, but they're getting a 404 error. I apologize if I had a typo in there. Just go to haleymarketing.com, click on the freebies drop down, and you'll see the email marketing guide. That will solve that problem. Next one, within how many days do you need to make follow-up calls before the content is stale or forgotten by the recipient? Usually we like to start following up with people 1 to 3 days after they would have received an announcement elsewhere. So if I emailed them, I might want to start calling the next day. If I direct mailed them, I want to give it a couple days for the mail to arrive and then start calling 1 to 3 days after when they received the announcement. If I instant message somebody, I might call a couple of days later. I don't want to be social message through LinkedIn. I don't want to be overly pushy about the content, but I want to follow up. And the other thing is the great content shouldn't be that time constrained that it's really going to get stale very quickly. If I'm writing about salary trends that are happening today, well, maybe I've got 30 to 60 or 90 days so that trend gets old. But most great content should have a decent lifespan so you can continue to leverage it over the long haul. And somebody said my slides were stuck. No, I was just answering questions. All right, we've now covered the fundamentals of content marketing. We've covered the reasons you want to do content marketing, how to really integrate it with sales and marketing, the basic plan of simply create a piece of content, add it to your website, create a promotional plan, and then a system for repeating it. But now we're going to go on to the advanced topics and really how to make your content marketing succeed. All right, the first advanced topic is something called buyer personas. And this is marketing ease for understand your customer. And what you really want to do is think about the different people you sell to: HR, department heads, frontline supervisors, controllers, senior executives, small business owners. There's lots of different categories of buyers of staffing. And I would suggest you sit down with your sales team and take out a sheet of paper and put the title of each type of decision maker at the top of a different sheet of paper. And then think through all the things you see on this slide. What are the demographics, the age range, the gender balance of the people we're selling to? What roles and goals do they have? What's their job all about? How are they measured for performance in their job? What's their perception of the staffing industry? How do they look at us? Do they look at us as a really valuable resource, a necessary evil, really expensive? What kind of challenges do they have? Not just staffing challenges, but what challenges do they have in their job every day? At what stage of the buying cycle do you interact with these people? And does the information, the content you share with them need to change as they go from being a cold suspect to a very hot prospect? What industry issues are going on in their world that you should be aware of? And then who are other people who influence how this person makes decisions, because you might want to network and share your content with the influencers. All of those topics lead to your really solid understanding of buyer needs. Second thing, once you understand buyer needs, is really understand staffing value. To understand the economic and emotional benefit of the services you provide. If you're not the lowest cost supplier in town, you've got to be able to prove to people how your overall staffing cost delivers more value, how you can reduce the total cost of labor, or somehow otherwise deliver more productivity or a better value than anybody else. If you're just focusing on our service is great, to most buyers in this kind of an economy, that's not enough to get them to say, but somebody can do it for less. They expect great service, so you got to deliver better value. So what are some of the economic benefits in staffing? Now, these aren't on the slide, so you may want to jot a few of these down. This is by no means a complete list, but this is some of the kinds of things we write about when we're writing for our clients. How do you convert fixed expenses to variable? How do you lower overall labor cost as a % of output? How do you reduce turnover, hiring, and training costs? How do you eliminate capacity constraints? How do you improve workforce productivity? How do you allow core employees to focus on their more important tasks and your organization to become more innovative? How do you reduce personnel administration and workforce liabilities? How do you ensure project deadlines are met? How do you access needed expertise on an on-demand basis without the cost of full-time hires and without the expense of hiring consulting firms? How do you take the pain out of the hiring process? Most people hate to hire. And those are just a few examples of the kinds of problems people have and the value staffing companies can provide. And the more your sales team understands that economic value, the more they can have meaningful conversations with clients, and you can use that that economic value to develop a content curriculum. And this is the third advanced topic. I mentioned content marketing is not a one-time event, and rather than trying to create this great end-all be-all guide to everything about staffing and how to manage your workforce, think about your education, your content, much like a college course, or if that thought scares you, like you're teaching it to a third grader. The idea is you're going to take this whole big educational message about the value of staffing and break it into little bite-sized pieces. And then you plan a calendar for when and how you'll share that message. And you have to be sure that in your calendar you're thinking about the key points you want to make and repeat it over time. And somebody said, most companies already use staffing, so how will they know all that? No, they don't. They use staffing reactively. They use staffing because they know they have a position to fill. Most companies are not planning proactively for their staffing needs. When we surveyed more than 800 HR managers, we found that a tiny percentage were planning more than 30 days in advance, and more than half were doing no proactive, temporary workforce planning. They're waiting for department managers to tell them we have a need to hire. It's reactive. And then when they're looking at that reactive need, they're using it for fill-ins or seasonal needs. They're not thinking about all of the different strategic reasons to use your services. Now, to the person who sent in that comment, I totally agree the fact that they have preconceived notions. And when you go in and you say, I'm selling staffing, they think they know what you do. Your challenge is to get them to change how they view it. I mentioned a company in the case studies. They went in focusing on the fact that companies get better value when they have more productive temps. They changed the conversation from being about markup to being about workforce quality, and in the process they won over a lot of HR people because they could help the HR person make a cogent argument to their managers that we got to buy on something more than price. All right, and somebody asked me for an email of all the value propositions that we just went over. And Nicholas, I will make them available to you. If you want to contact me after the webinar, I will make sure that we get those to you. All right, number 4, think about your communication channels. There's so many different ways to communicate, and that's part of what's overwhelming about marketing today, is there's a bazillion different forms of social media and email marketing and picking up the phone and drop-bys. And the idea is to match your message to the medium and the medium to the audience. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, email. When to use email? Email is great for quick tips, news, top candidates, and for people you already know. People who are on the computer all day long. Email's not great for long explanations, complicated issues, because people don't have patience, and most people are reading email now on their phone. So it's got to be short and sweet. If you've got long format content, that's going to be on your website. Email is just a mechanism for driving people to the website. Mailing and drop-off, they're great for articles, white papers. They're ideal for people you don't already know and would like to begin to build a relationship with, or people who never sit behind a computer. If you sell to supervisors who are on a plant floor, having something you can put in their hand is more valuable than having a great email. Blogs. Blogs are good when you want more content than email, but not the length of a feature article or ebook. So they're kind of your short stories. They're great for case studies. They're great for when you want to have categorized content and when you're specifically writing content that you want Google to find. White papers and ebooks. They're great for long format education. When you want to really sell your message in a convincing manner, having white papers, ebooks, and webinars are great for education. Videos are wonderful for how-to training, thought leadership, and they can be appropriate for any audience. Social media is very appropriate for those people who like to spend their day, younger parts of the workforce, people who like to spend their day on their computers or their cell phones, who live on Facebook. They're great for candidates, and it's ideal for sharing links back to your content and connecting with people who are influencers that you'd like to get to know. And of course the telephone, which is great for nurturing clients and warm leads and promoting your offers to introduce your firm to cold leads. And again, with communication channels, when you're doing your planning, you're thinking about how do I develop the right format and then use it through the right channel to get the best response. Next thing we like to see is CRM integration. Integrating all of your content marketing with whatever tool you're using for client relationship management. It might be your staffing software. You might use a tool like Salesforce.com or ACT. Excuse me. The idea is that you would automatically feed sales leads into your systems and flag what people downloaded so that your sales team real time is seeing who's taking advantage of what on your website. What you see on screen now is an example of a short little response form. That form can be hooked up so when somebody hits the submit button, it will email your sales team or email a general sales mailbox, so you'll automatically get an email right away and feed the lead into your CRM system. The other part about CRM integration is your sales team has to know what to do with the lead. These people aren't, most people who fill out a form like this, they're not ready to buy that minute, but they're probably interested in a problem that you can solve. So last month, we wrote an article on new trends in recruiting. And one of our clients in Seattle sent that article out, and then they looked at all the people who clicked through to read the article. And their owner, who's very astute, said, hey, anybody clicking to read this article, that person has a recruiting problem. Let's call them not to sell immediately our services, but to say, hey, are there recruiting challenges we can help you get more information on? And from that one email and the follow-up calls made the following week, 3 new clients were landed just by using the right channels and getting the information in the hands of the sales reps. But the sales reps had to know what to do with the information. So if you've got follow-up, you want to do as part of your plan, it's to think through how are we going to follow up. And to also, if they're going to do email follow-up, consider scripting those emails so you know exactly what people are saying in the follow-up process. Next up is to create leverage, and this is something we do at Haley Marketing Group a lot. We're just getting our clients to do more of this. If you're going to write a blog post, that blog post can be leveraged to create an ebook. That ebook might be leveraged to create a webinar, or vice versa. We might have a webinar that leads to an ebook that leads to a series of blog posts. The idea is content creation is time-consuming and it costs money. So if you're going to spend the time and the effort and the dollars to build a great piece of content, get as much mileage as you can out of it by using it in multiple places. And one of the things you'll also see, if you look in the upper left corner where it says creating leverage, this is a page from our blog, and you'll see how we promote not only the blog post, but we've got all of our other categories of content. Then we've got a promotion to join our Idea Lab so we can capture your contact information. And the picture is cut off because you can't see the full screen, but below that you see in the orange it says get free guides, and we promote all of our marketing guides to leverage the promotion of our other content. And even below that we then promote our next upcoming webinar. So we're creating leverage in the content we're writing as well as creating leverage in how we cross-promote to get people to interact with our firm. And you can do the exact same thing with your blog posts leading to webinars, leading to ebooks, or vice versa. And lastly, using analytics. Getting data about your content marketing to improve your content marketing. You want to improve response. And this is part of the reason it's so important to have the content on your website, because then you can use Google Analytics to determine, well, what content is most interesting. So if I've got a lot of blog posts, which content are people going to? Which posts are being most widely read? From those posts, I can figure out what other topics to write about because I know what's of most interest to my audience. You can see where people go and where they don't go on your website to improve the calls to action and to relay out those pages that are the dead ends for people on your website. You can see what keywords people use in search engines to get to your website so you can write more content around those keywords. Beyond Google Analytics, you can use the analytics from your email marketing to test subject lines, to see what subject lines get the most response. We've seen that through subject line testing, we can get as much as a 100% response. I think in one case we had a 500% response in open rates just by writing a better subject line. One of the other things you can do, this technically I wouldn't call it analytics, but it's getting feedback by conducting surveys and interviewing your clients to get feedback about the topics you've been writing about, the value of your client, and the ongoing problems and challenges that your clients, candidates, and prospects are having. The more you have good data, the more you can refine your content, the more you can increase response to your marketing. All right, so we have now covered, in 54 minutes, a really solid overview of content marketing. And just to recap, what we've talked about was thinking about content as a way to start conversations, integrating it with our current sales activities. Thinking about content to nurture relationships and keep the firm top of mind. Giving salespeople a reason to make follow-up calls. We talked about setting up a plan by creating a single great piece of content, adding it to your website, and then having a great plan to promote the content. And then we took a look at some of the best practices and advanced topics on how to leverage and get more response out of your content marketing, which brings me to questions. Again, I had one person sent right in through the GoToMeeting questions. If you'd like to do the same because you want the that list of value propositions for staffing that I ran through, we're happy to send them out. If there are questions that come up after this presentation, call me. Call our sales team. Email me. My contact information is all right there on screen. And if you love this idea and you like the concept of content marketing, check out our Idea Lab. Go to haleymarketing.com/IdeaLab and you can see content marketing in action. You can get a membership. It's free to the Idea Lab, and you'll get access to our recorded webinars, our ebooks, our white papers, and all of our other really useful content for staffing and recruiting firms. And lastly, as a thank you to everybody who stuck it out for the hour on this call and for being part of today's Lunch with Haley webinar. We don't usually talk product during our webinars, but we just did a major revamp of our Haley Mail service, which for the last 12 years has been about email marketing and email nurturing. Well, it is now a complete content marketing system with email marketing, ebooks, white papers, drop-offs, social media marketing, and web content. If you're interested in learning more about it, contact us and mention today's webinar, and we will give you free startup on your Haley Mail program with 1 year of services. So we're happy to tell you all about it, and just contact us. And lastly, in just 2 weeks, my friend Tom Kosnick is going to be doing our next Lunch with Haley webinar, and the topic is going to be managing and compensating staffing sales reps. So Tom will bring his usual dry wit and sense of humor as he really goes through what's effective in driving sales performance in the staffing industry. I want to thank everybody for being part of today's Lunch with Haley webinar. I will stay on the line. There's been some questions that have come in that I haven't answered. I will stay on the line to answer those questions. If more questions pop up, continue to use the chat box, and I will be happy to answer them. If you missed me today, call us at 888-696-2900 or dcerns@haleymarketing.com, and we'll be happy to answer. All right, let's see what we missed in some of the questions. Let's see. Oh, well, it looks like I take back most of the key ones were answered. People want to know where to get the questions, the list of value propositions, and also some of the topic ideas. You can use the GoToWebinar and just submit it there. Say you would like the follow-up, and we'll email it to you. Or you can email us at info@haleymarketing.com or dcerns@haleymarketing.com, and we'll get it out to you. Let's see, I think if there was any other questions I missed. All right, yeah, there was one early on that I did miss. There was something there. With an attention span of 30 seconds or less from clients and content marketing companies coming out of the woodwork, very original material is being generated. How do you really differentiate yourself from the flood of junk? And that is a problem. There's so much content being shared. How do you make your content stand out? The answer is do a deep dive into understanding your clients. The more the content is relevant to your specific audience, the more they'll pay attention to it. Today's webinar must have really hit a chord with the staffing industry. We normally have about 200 people that sign up for a webinar. Today we had almost 500. How do we get that many people to want to listen to us? Because we're dealing with subject matters that matter to you. Yeah, I mentioned the fact that we have a product called Haley Mail, but this wasn't a sales pitch for Haley Mail. This was about how to do content marketing. And if you look at the problems in the staffing industry, there's very little good content being produced that teaches people how to address those problems. Some of the big national companies have some on their website. They do some good salary surveys, but what they don't have is really good stuff that applies to your local market or the specific niche industry that you serve. Okay, somebody else said, I'm just starting out. How much time do you think it would take to get my business going? Well, if I was going to just start a new staffing company, the first thing I would do in content marketing would be to do surveys. I would go and talk to prospective clients, and I'd get their take on what they love and what they don't like about their current staffing vendors. And the more I could learn about their challenges and their interests, they will give you the things that you should talk about. Now, getting that first call with them may be tough. You may have to really network through LinkedIn, but don't position yourself as a staffing firm. Position yourself as someone who's really trying to learn about the problems with staffing firms. And I have a feeling you'll find that those people are really ready to tell you everything they don't like. And from what they tell you, then you can build your services to solve those problems, and you can develop content as the basis of conversation to, again, address those problems. All right, we are just at 3 o'clock, so thank you to everyone for being part of today's Lunch with Haley webinar, and I hope to see everybody again in 2 weeks for Tom Koznick's webinar on managing and compensating staffing sales reps.